Good morning, everybody. Like to welcome Steve Budding to our interview this morning from Optimising IT. Steve, just tell us a little bit about yourself and also about what Optimising IT offers to its clients.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Steve. I'm the business development manager for Optimising IT. Optimising IT, as you heard a bit earlier, but I'll repeat for the recording. We're a managed service provider for IT services. Which means sort of everything IT related for a business. So we look after the people, their software, their hardware. We've got a support desk. We do specialise in cyber assurance. I mean, we're based in Bigworth in Gloucester, so we're quite close to Cyber Central with GCHQ as well. We've got no affiliation with them, of course, apart from our engineers are qualified to that level. But we do a lot of cyber. We do a lot of that. We have we have quite a lot of businesses ranging from small, 10 to 15 seat people, businesses, and we range up to 500 plus businesses. So we sort of do a mixture of all sorts, really. Yeah.
And within that range, where would sort of be your sweet spot for sort of
Sweet
size?
spot.
For size
Yeah.
business?
Yeah. Our sweet spot. Well, I guess I don't, we do have them clearly. I suppose our ideal sweet spot is anywhere between a business of between 50 and 250, 300 people. But actually, it doesn't matter. Recently, we've taken on a couple of smaller. We've taken on a small property agents and also a financial house as well, like a financial partnership. And they are 15 people, one of them. 12 people the other, and those are brilliant as well. So it does vary, but yeah, I guess if from a sales perspective, if you said, well, what's your sweet spot, Steve? I'd love to get those 50 to 500 businesses, of course. But
Across all industries, or do you find that you tend to resonate with particular industries?
it's a good question. We've got a variance. We've got a lot in the motor trade from cars with dealerships, but also we work with Forge Motorsport in Gloucester, because we're sort of based there, so that's kind of our core market. We've got those. We've got a lot of solicitors, recruitment agencies, media centres, so people who do anything to do with marketing and media and those kind of things. So it's a good spread from solicitors, lawyers, everything really. Yeah.
Fantastic. So explain to us a little bit more about what an MSP is, and if somebody was looking to engage one,
Yeah.
why would they be looking for an MSP as opposed to any other help with their IT?
Yeah, again, it varies, I guess, in a lot of cases. I mean, when you say IT to somebody, they start to glaze over a little bit unless you live and breathe it every day. And I totally understand, but I'm a bit of a techie nerd myself. I'm in the sales team, if you like, but I understand it. I guess from a business perspective, you're looking for a managed service provider. If you are at a point where you it's as a business owner, it's taking your attention is more focused on getting your IT fixed, putting your teams with IT rather than running your business. At that point, we start to see businesses start to ask the question, well, can somebody else look after it for me? Now, they will have to pay for that service. Of course they will, because it's a business and you've got to run it. But what they do is they kind of hand it all off. Um, our I mean, the way that we manage it is the fact that, okay, all we want to do is manage everything for them. We are not what a lot of people call a break fix
Right.
company, whereby if you've got a problem, you phone us up, we fix it, and you never speak to us again. We're a bit more well, we do that, by the way. If it's broken, we'll fix it. But obviously,
That's good to hear.
yeah, I think that's a good, yeah. I mean, you're paying for something, right? But we're more proactive than that. So we
Right.
have tools that are installed on the hardware. We don't intrude. We're cyber experts. We're not doing that kind of level of stuff. We're not hacking anybody. But what it does do is monitor things. So we're more proactive happening. We usually know if there's going to be a problem before it happens. In most cases, you can't always guarantee that, but so we're a bit more proactive. Yes, we've got a break fix, but we kind of try and get stuff so it never happens in the first place.
And so does it cover the whole gamut of hardware and software and networks and things like VoIP systems and that whole piece, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. We do cover everything. So from networking, including firewall and routing and that kind of stuff. We can source lease lines for your internet providers, that kind of thing. We can also work on VoIP, the voice over IP, telephone systems, communication. We don't specialize in that, so we can work with it to a certain degree. If you have a big project with VoIP and you want to do something quite interesting, we have partners that we would advise you with, and there's no kind of charge with that. We don't profess to be an expert when we know somebody else can do
Yeah.
it better because they only specialize in that. So we do that as well. Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm guessing it's quite a crowded marketplace in terms of suppliers and providers to businesses. So
Yeah.
what's the differentiator with other competitors in the area?
Yeah, another very, very good question. Yeah, there are a lot, and there are a lot everywhere, wherever we work. So we work Gloucestershire all the way down the southwest into, well, we've now got an office in Exeter, as I said earlier, and we're growing. We're national, we do work everywhere, but the thing that sets us apart in that space are a number of things. One, our support desk is slightly different than most. And we're not saying we're unique, but what happens with our support desk is when you phone up to get support, like if you phoned up Vodafone or whatever your phone provider or your gas or your electric, you would go into a first line system where somebody on the first line desk will say, hello, what's your name? What's your blood type? How old are you? What color eyes have you got? How many kids have you got? And then they talk to you about your problem, and you're 10, 15 minutes in before they even ask you what the issue is, right? So what we do is we train our engineers up. It slows us down in terms of our recruitment cycle is higher, is longer. But what we do is we train them up to second tier, third tier level as soon as we can. So what happens then is you phone up, I've got a problem, it goes into a desk. You could argue that is first line because somebody talks to you. However, they will actually find out what the problem is and deal with it straight then. You won't get passed on. So about 85% of our calls in will be dealt with straight away, and our kind of our SLA is very, very quick. So we've shortened that. We've won awards for that, so we know that we can act quickly. It puts an overhead on us to get those trained up in the first place, but that's part of our staff training, and that's why we do it. So they get quite elevated quite quickly through the system
And then
once
do you
trained.
find, and then is the training for the first line people, so you can do more and more stuff at the first line without even having necessary to refer?
Yeah, yeah, that Jill, really. So we don't really have first line. Our first line people are our second line engineers.
Oh, okay.
So they're trained directly to actually be hands-on and do it. And then we've got a third line team. So they specialize either in cyber or networking or hardware or something. And those guys also can go out. So if you've got a real big problem and it's a real issue and we can't fix it remotely, then we say, right, we're gonna have to come out, and they'll come out to you, So that it's rare, but it does happen. So yeah.
So you don't spend the first 15 minutes battling with an automated menu system, which then ends up putting you in the wrong place anyway, and then you have to do it all over again. That's which is
Correct. Yeah.
a person, which is quite an
Yeah.
interesting differentiator in this day and age, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It's the hands-on approach, and people like that obviously because it's
Yeah.
you're talking to a human. Some people like the remote chat thing, and that's fine. We've got that as well, so you can go online and log a call, or you can email in and it will get logged. Those kind of cases we kind of think of, well, they can't be that important then, can they? But they are clearly. So we will try and escalate those as best as we can. If we're phoned up, if somebody phones us or knocks on the door, then they're dealt with straight away, of course, because obviously there's a problem there. So we kind of encourage people to call in, but they can log a chat line, and they can still raise the importance level even there. If they don't want to talk to us, that's fine, and then we'll escalate it as we call it the P1s, P2s, P3s in terms of priority orders. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I mean, people like to interact in different ways, don't they? So you need.
Correct. Yeah.
So you talked about you've won awards for the customer service support part of things. Are there any other notable wins where there's been a really helping customers in a really difficult situation? I imagine you've got some horror stories, but
There are, and I can't name names on some of them because, especially when you talk about cyber awareness and those kind of things. But there are, it happens to everybody, unfortunately. At the moment, the UK are getting hit. Not only the UK, a lot of countries at the moment, they're getting hit quite heavily with cyber attacks. And it's not always from the countries that you think that they'll be attacking you either. So it's everywhere. So you get, all the big names, Russia, Ukraine, China, India, America. You'd be surprised how many hackers are hitting the UK from America, weirdly. But they're all over, right? And it happens because people are, are horrible sometimes. But if you just looked at the back end of your, this is a really dull techie thing, right? If you use Microsoft 365 for your like email and Word, even on my home personal account, you can go in and you can see people that are trying to like use your account. And that's just from a personal thing, like my
Yeah,
Hotmail account. And I went on the other day, and even I had been attacked from, well, attempted spoofing and attacking from all sorts of countries. That was just me, and I've got nothing that they could, want. But
possibly.
anyway, yeah. So for businesses, it's even worse, right? You get as soon as they got your business name, they start attacking you. So the story is, this happens all the time. We've had cases whereby we don't work with this company, but the company had phoned us up. We said we noticed your cyber, we need help. We've got ransomware. We were able to go in, actually save their data, luckily, because we managed to establish them because their current support provider couldn't do it. We went in, we sorted that out, and then we gave them an implementation plan and some cyber assurance. We did the whole audit, we did the checks, we did the fix, we put some things in place, some software in place that would help them going forward. They are now becoming a customer, so that they're still in contract, so they're not on yet. But in 6 months, when it runs out, they'll come on board with us, which is great. So things like that happen quite often. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And one of the interesting things about optimizing is, of course, that you're a B Corp. So what was the driver behind the company becoming a B Corp?
Um, a number of reasons. The right and real reason is we were kind of already B Corp-y anyway. So if you don't know about B Corp, it's worth having a look up. There's a good website on it, but it's a global certification, if you like, of businesses that are like-minded. We're not tree huggers. It's not all about, nature. It's very important, the environment, clearly. That's part of their pillars. But it's also about social well-being, ethical, fairness, all those kind of things. So there's lots of pillars that we have to
Yeah.
adhere to. And basically, we're already adhering to most of it. What really pushed us over was we were talking to Vivo Barefoot in London. So they're a shoemaking company. If you've never heard of them,
I
look
don't
them up.
think.
They're very good. Yeah, and they're very much, and they wanted to work with us, but what they said was, but you're not a B Corp.
Oh, so
So
they're
that kind of, so from a business arm, it was like, well, if you want
yeah.
to work with us, become a B Corp. We were like, well, okay, let's have a look at that. It was something that the business was considering anyway, but they didn't really, there was no driver to really go for it right there and then. This happened. It's a big company. It was a good deal. It was the right thing to do. So we went through the motions. B Corp.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to go through.
No,
It's timely. There's a lot of form filling, clearly, and then and they're not very quick coming back to you to sign you off. So you send it all off, and then you wait for months and months and months. And I think it took us only 9 months. Most companies take anywhere up to 2 years to do it.
no, it's
So we were almost there. Yeah, yeah. So we were lucky, really. Our ESG manager, she got us through it. So she was just focused on it for weeks. So yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting because I think more and more companies are looking at their supply chain for either B Corp or some sort. I mean, the business
yep,
is carbon neutral now for 4 years. We're too small to be a B Corp, but we're in that space.
yep,
And as Pete might mention in the wrap up, ESG is one of the key pillars that runs through all of the business shows because it's so crucial for everybody's business, regardless of how big you are, to be aware of it and how you're implementing it in your business as we move forward
hmm
over the next couple of years. So there's a bit of marketing been going on lately, I think I've been spotting. What is this about sports teams?
Well, I don't know. I'm quite new to optimizing, but it's been going. I do know. We started off a couple of years ago sponsoring Cheltenham Town Football Club. So that if you ever go to Cheltenham Town Football Club, there's the Optimising IT stand, like the board across the top, and we do a lot of work with those. We also sponsor Cheltenham Tigers ladies rugby team. And most recently, as what you're alluding to, Jill, is that when we opened our office in Exeter, we also sponsored Cheltenham Exeter City Football Club as
Oh,
well. So Exeter City Football Club and Cheltenham Town Football Club are in the same league, so that's a bit weird.
yes.
But anyway, it works out quite well. We managed to get a really good deal. I know we're recording this. I can't say any numbers. We had a really good deal. It was a really good fit. They're really brilliant down there because they're kind of I think they're public led. That
Yeah,
it's their
one
fans
of my
led.
one of my members is an avid Exeter supporter. Yeah.
Well, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And they're very active. They're very active with the Exeter Chamber of Commerce. So we get in all of that. My MD lives down there, Todd. So he's very active in all of those like networking Exeter. And there's a number of reasons that we did that. Not because Todd lives there. It was nothing to do with that. Todd was used to working up this way anyway, so it was all fine. One of the big reasons that we opened there was, again, comes back to the B-Corp side of it. So there's a lot of B-Corp. Well, 45% of B-Corps are in London, in the
Oh wow.
UK,
Okay.
right? In London. The rest of them are pretty much in the southwest. There's some in Bristol. There's a good amount in Bristol. There's some in Birmingham now raising up, which is great. All these like pillars, these centres. But the southwest, weirdly, well, I mean, it shouldn't be weird, but Devon and Cornwall, there's a huge amount of B-Corps happening in that area. So we thought, right, okay, well, we need, and we get phoned up by B-Corp companies wanting to work with a B-Corp
Yes.
MSP.
Yes, they're
So
looking.
it's great. It's a lovely little networking thing, and vice versa. You want to work with another B-Corp. So it just made sense. So we went into Exeter. We've got the Optimising IT stands. It's facing the cameras, so you can see it on telly when they do a match that's televised. So it's quite nice. So it's a good fit for us. So yeah, so sports teams and advertising, and of course, and we've been shouting about it on LinkedIn and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, of course.
And so final question, what's the thing that you most enjoy about working for Optimising IT?
The My background is working in ed tech, and I was a head of product for a company, and it was a great company. They're lovely people, but it was long hours, a lot of work. Now, I'm not afraid of that, by the way. I'm not afraid of the long hours and long work. That wasn't it. It was just a lot of stresses involved. And I needed to change things. I wasn't seeing the kids. I wasn't really interacting with the wife and the family. So it was like, it wasn't doing me any good. So I needed to change. Anyway, the job came up in optimizing IT. I've never done sort of a BDM role before, and I joined. And the reason I joined, number of factors, the B Corp, great. But most importantly was the people that I was working with. They're a nice bunch. They're quite close knit. We don't profess to be a family business. It's not that we are. We feel like a family because the way that we act with each other. But it was the right attitude, and and the one thing appealed to me about this particular job was the fact that it wasn't it was it they didn't want a hard salesman that goes in and does like cheesy car sales type thing. And then, sorry if anybody knows a car salesman, they're not like that anymore, but that kind of image. It's very relaxed approach about making relationships, then
Yeah,
there's no pressure. So for me, yeah, it was just a nicer change of pace. I'm busy, there's a lot of work going on, but I'm not stressed about it, which is brilliant. So yeah, I mean, that's personally that's why I joined. Yeah,
fantastic.
good
Thank you
fit.
very much indeed, Steve. Interesting to hear. Before I hand back to Pete, has anybody got any questions they would like to ask Steve? Mark, I can see you've got your hand raised.
Oh, you're on mute, Mark.
Exeter Cheltenham, you go on to a match, who do you support? The obvious question.
Well, I'm more rugby. I prefer rugby. So yeah, I'm trying to get into Gloucester as well. But I'm more rugby. No, it's a good question. Wherever the home ground is, we're at. I'll switch. I'm not that loyal. So, yeah.
And the other thing is that from a security point of view, I work from home, so I've got McAfee, I've got Microsoft, security through Windows, and I've got cloud backup.
Yeah.
Would that be sufficient? And I'm just very careful when I get emails coming in. If I'm not sure, then I don't open it. I get rid of it, or I make a phone call and say, "Excuse me, did you?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're doing all the right things. So you've got all the right things in place. You can never have enough cybersecurity. If you talk to our engineers, you can never have enough, right? You have everything thrown at you. But the most important ones, obviously, your antivirus, clearly. So that will fix things if they get through. If you can stop them from getting through in the first place, that's a bonus. So look at things like, they're called EDRs, endpoint. Um, Something detection recovery something that's what it means. We can talk to the engineers about that, but the EDR stuff, it stops it before it even gets to you, and you can get those. You kind of got to pay a little bit for it, but it gives you that layer. The most important thing you're doing is your cloud backups, because
Yeah.
Microsoft, I only found out when I joined this team, was that Microsoft don't keep a backup of your 365 environment. So there's me thinking all my OneDrive and everything else at home is all backed up. Well, it is for a certain amount of time, but they don't guarantee it over 90 days. So if you haven't got a backup of that, somebody gets a ransomware attack and gets into your OneDrive and locks everything out, you've lost it. You've
And
lost
what
it.
does
So,
EDR stand for? Sorry, Steve.
endpoint detection. Hang on. Yeah.
That's okay. Endpoint
Response.
detection.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll find it and put it in.
EDR.
And
Endpoint detection and response. I knew that clearly because I sell it. Yeah.
Just briefly, about 2 weeks ago, a text message, basically, or an email or text message, basically asking me to pay an invoice of £500 with regards to you need to renew your Norton security for your.
Yeah.
And I thought, hang on a minute. So I rang the number. It was a Leicester number, and they indicated they clearly were based in London. So hang on a minute, this doesn't tie up. And then I did a few other things, and the email said something like reply or thank you, whatever. And I said, can you check the invoice number, blah blah blah. And then they said, can you give me the date when I registered with Norton? The phone went down.
Yeah, of course it did.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just
So
thought, hang on a minute. There were so many errors. It was so obvious.
yeah, the Norton antivirus thing comes up quite a lot on McAfee and everything, and they're all very, very good virus, antivirus. But the reality of it is, if you are on Windows 10 or 11 or 11, the latest version of Windows, and you've got Windows Defender is an antivirus, and it's listed on the Cyber Assured website as a good thing. So you've already paid for it with Windows. You don't I'm not suggesting you don't need all those other ones. You do what you like with your protection, but you've kind of already got it with Windows. So, and that's what we suggest to our clients. So they use the Windows version. We can put tools on top, like EDR tools, like Huntress or Sentinel-1. They're two brand names, and that will also manage it as well and protect you from out, and it'll protect you from within. So nothing gets in really.
So basically,
Thanks, Mark. Mark, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. Okay,
coming in from Dale. Dale, you've got a question.
Yeah, Mark kind of asked it just as he works from home as well. So my office is kind of based at home at the moment. But coming from someone that had their emails and whatnot hacked quite recently, so I'd definitely be interested if you do kind of small, if you work with small companies as well as obviously the big ones, definitely be interested in having a conversation.
Of course.
But yeah, kind of answered all the questions of Mark anyway. So
yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Dale. Matthew, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick one, because I'm in the interest of time. So, Steve, how did you start your B-Corp journey? Because we do a lot of work with Business West, and they're all over B-Corp.
Yeah.
So where did kind of how did you start it?
Yeah, so it was they started probably well over a year ago now, about a year and a half ago. They got signed off this year in February, March time, but before that, it was probably 9 months before that. They obviously started it because of Vivo Barefoot wanting to work with a B-Corp, so that kind of kicked it off. You have to, if you go to the B-Corp site, it gives you a guide on what you have to do, the stuff you have to fill in. It's a lot of form filling. It's all about proof. It's all about saying, because you might say, well, actually, we're already green. We recycle. We save our water. We've got solar panels. We've got da-da-da-da. So you're probably already doing a lot of it anyway. Your mindset and the way that you run your business is probably already very ethical, and you look after your staff and you work with the community local and that kind of stuff. So you're kind of ticking all those boxes, because it's not just about tree hugging. So it's not about the environment. It's about, working with local communities and charities and what you do for that, looking after your staff, your social standing and those kind of things. So actually, you're probably already doing a good chunk of it. The work involved and the process is proving it. So, having proof that you're carbon zero, and you do a lot of work for charities, and these are your charities, and this is what you do, and this is how you, so it's kind of like, so that's where the work is. It's that proof. It's worth doing, but I'd be lying if I said it's not easy. There's a step involved. It's not difficult. It's just a lot of stuff to do. But once you've done it, you get your B-Corp certification. Every 3 years, you have to kind of prove that you've improved, or you've done something different, or you've maintained at least. And everybody's all about the score, the B-Corp score. So if you think of Patagonia, the clothing company, they're a B Corp, and Mother Nature is on their board of directors, so they've listed that. They're like, their score, I mean, nobody cares here, but 160, brilliant, right? We're in the 90s, right? So we want to get up to there. So every 3 years, we're going to be, over those 3 years now, we're kind of like, well, what can we do? Can we save water? Can we do more for the environment? Can we do can we work with more local companies to try and generate? And the more you do, the more points you get, and as long as you can prove it, tick a box. So that's the process. It's form filling, really, but for the right reasons. Yeah.
A starting point, B-Corp, a website, Matthew, I think. Right, thanks very much, everybody. I'm sorry, we need to move on to...
Yeah, sorry. Went on to me.
That's really interesting, because I think the B-Corp thing is obviously becoming more prevalent, and if people aren't big enough for B-Corp, then I would recommend speaking to Ian McQuown, who's in Cheltenham, who runs Go Climate Positive, which specialises in carbon neutral stuff. So helps with the footprint. And then you could always move on to B Corp afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic. Thanks very much indeed, Steve. That was really interesting.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Steve. That's really interesting. And a good discussion there. The whole cyber thing's been going for a long while. Well, I say a long while, relative terms. We first tripped into it in 2015, and it has changed and evolved so much in that time. And it's going to go a long way. And I know you've got a lot of interest in Cheltenham, and Cheltenham's a bit of the heart of things with the new Golden Valley project. So interesting times. Okay, so moving on, our second interviewee today is Laura Morin. Laura is in the world of recruitment, and I think rather than me trying to introduce you and get it all wrong, I'm actually going to say, Laura, would you like to say hello and tell us a little bit about your agency, the overview, the background, your areas of specialism, and your experience in the whole recruitment game, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat from there. Laura, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. Well, yes, my company, as I mentioned earlier, is called Verko, which means a work in Esperanto. I hope everybody knows what's Esperanto. It's the language that is combined so many other languages, and is quite popular in some countries. Verko was born because in 2016 I did my MBA and I did my dissertation, and it was talking about leadership, and then I spot that not many women are in leadership positions, talking about from C-suite to directors and so on. And so I started doing my research, and I spot that the main reason is because there's a big gap between the age of 30 to around 40 or 35 when the woman stop to having a career because of maternity leave. And that has a big impact on the careers. And then I thought, well, mainly all of them come back part-time, and they want flexibility. And it's now until now that we start talking and hearing a lot of flexibility. But if more companies implement the power of part-time, it's not necessarily 2 days a week. It could be 4 days. It could be even 4.5 days. With flexibility, you will have a very, very strong innovation tool in your work. So that's when I decided to set up this company. And my main audience is women. And I want to work with companies. I want to make a difference, and not only to, hire people, but hire the right talent. And by doing that, I started, testing the market, and many companies were like, oh, we don't want to hear about that. So I joined a Green Advantage school in the Aston University, and we talk about all B-Corp and become sustainable. And you can achieve more by having a purpose. And that's when I pivoted and then decide to, okay, I'm going to focus more on the sustainable side and offer this, you recruit with me with a purpose, and I will help you to make you achieve your purpose. And that means I donate the workshops to women. So I in a way, I help the two. And that has been very welcome in the community. So my expertise are in technology. And I want to start working with manufacturing because it's the less women industries. Funny enough, is where in the next 5 years is the jobs are going to increase the most, manufacturing and technology, and it's very male dominated. So I have an amazing talent pool of women who have degrees, who have knowledge, but they've been outside of the work for a while. And this is when my company comes. So I'm specialized in flexible part-time jobs that want to, untap an amazing talent pool. And that's how Verko came, and that's what I'm doing.
Excellent. And so you're really about gender equality and gender inclusion.
Indeed.
That's interesting. And obviously it's a significant area of discussion at the moment. I mean, the whole equality discussion,
Yes.
and you've got many aspects of that, but gender pay gaps and everything, there's a lot going on in that space at the moment.
Yes.
So with that as a backdrop, and thinking about recruitment, and you mentioned there technology and manufacturing being the spaces that you see opportunities for gender equality coming. That's a really interesting statement, because I think that's important and it's great. But what are the trends that you're seeing, and why are you seeing that as an opportunity in manufacturing and tech, especially at the moment?
Yeah, well, what happened is 2019 changed the life for everyone. COVID, and then because of that, technology advanced about 10 years ahead. So all this remote working was forecast, but it will not happen now. It will happen after 2030. By doing that, open a gap to women that can combine, anyone. Even Steve mentioned he wants more quality of life rather than be all the time working. So that is good. A good news for us and for everybody. So that was one of the trends, is that there is basically flexibility, diversity, inclusion, and fulfillment. Everybody wants to have a purpose. And I think that's what B-Corp is becoming more popular with companies, because it's not just about producing and have profit. It's about what's the impact that you have in the world, what you contribute to a better society. And that's what the recruitment companies or the recruitment industry is looking, or is it the future trends. And you have, if you think about your work labor, is basically millennials and Gen Zs. And they are looking for autonomy. They're not drive by money. They drive for more other things. They want quality of life. They want combine, hobbies with doing something different. Obviously, they need the money for live. So this is when you need to think about, when I'm going to recruit, I need to see what's my values, what's my mission, and sell that to the people, so you attract the best talent. And you don't, if you're going to, it's expensive to recruit, and if you're going to do it for the right person, not just because you need someone. Okay.
So it's interesting. You see the drive for women going into tech and manufacturing coming from the demand for that from the employers, as much as an inspired drive from the individuals to go and find that work. Do I hear you right in that?
Yes, indeed, because the new generations are not the same, and they want that, and also there is a big gap of skills at the moment, and the government are training people in technology, in cybersecurity. They offer free courses to people who wants to change career, and if women have that opportunity, you will have an amazing, a lot of, it is so. You think about the population, on almost half of the population are already working. Almost 50% of the labor is females, but they work in jobs that probably they don't feel happy, or they're not having, they're not have the whole potential. And if you think about the generations that are coming behind, they are having, all this mindset, I don't want to go to manufacturing, I want to do technology, is only for men. This is the chip that we need to change, and this is the chance to do it, because then you start breaking down barriers, and then you open to a lot of people, and your diversity and your inclusion will come naturally.
Yes, so that was part of what was the thought that was forming in my mind there as you were saying that, because I think it's great that you're seeing a demand from employers growing to include women in the workplace. But the sectors that, well, all the sectors, but these sectors specifically are already talking about major skills gaps. So notwithstanding everything you were saying there about training the right people in the right ways and bringing them through the system, that obviously is a medium to long-term goal. We can't achieve that overnight. So if we're seeing a demand arrive in the manufacturing and tech sectors, are we fundamentally going to be able to fulfill that demand? Is there a workforce of women who are actually saying, yeah, that's me, I want to do that?
Yes, I think there are many. I mean, the STEM program, Return to Work, is very successful now, because there is, if you think about the women that all they've been trained, but they left because, I can't come back to work 9 to 5. But if you start, the employers start, be more flexible, you will have their talent already being trained. And between that gap where they've been outside the market, they've been training into something else, and they've been growing perhaps softer skills or different skills. So you have a well-rounded candidate rather than someone that is very, very constrained. The other good thing about, the challenge of how you close that gap is by being more proactively looking into your workforce. You probably have already the talent in there, but sometimes you overlook and you don't see, oh, I just recruit rather than develop one that is in my organization and give that opportunity. So it's just to start thinking outside the box and how can I solve the problem? Not necessarily to go and recruit, but can I develop already my staff? And that's when I come and I say to my client, okay, I don't want to recruit just because I want to sell you a service. I want to give you a holistic consultancy and see perhaps you have already talent in there that you can develop. Or it's already developed, but you overlook.
So it's interesting. The return to work thing is an important thing there, and it's interesting to look at that, because obviously that you've got some very new, fast-moving skills. So return to work, in that context, needs to start focusing on not just getting you back to where you were, but getting you back to a place well in advance of where you were because of the technology and the space moving on. But you're also combining a second inclusion area, which of course is the ageism agenda, which we're seeing come up more and more around the place. So between gender equality and ageism, that's a potentially very powerful thing that's going on there if we can get that upskilling right.
Upskilling, yeah, and also another trend that everybody's overlooked as well is because COVID, many people in the age of 40 to 50 we call it, left the career because they say, oh, I'm retired, I have an early retirement, I don't need to work. But after 3 years, they start thinking to come back to work because, oh, I'm a bit bored, I need to do something. And that's an incredible pull as well that's been already trained. Is skills in there that they've been overlooked. So many of them don't want to come back full time either. And this is when I see the opportunity of combined flexibility with part-time. You have already people that is trained, people that has experience, and you only compromise, which is not at all, is to be more flexible and open more part-time jobs in senior positions. And by doing that, you will have a more productive candidate. Your productivity will be going up. And you will be more cost effective. So my mission is to offer the best talent to a company for the most cost effective service and empower women.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. So tell me, how do you source and assess candidates to ensure they're good fit for the organisation? For its culture and its specific requirements, because they're coming to you, especially in manufacturing engineering, for a very special technical data set. So how do you go about sourcing those candidates?
Well, I have already my pool of women because I've been networking and talking, with people that I already know. But I do a lot of network. There is job boards, and I run some workshops and webinars where I invite women. I talk about gender equality and unconscious bias. And that's when I noticed that it's all these women that are incredibly talented, but they're not being the potential is being overlooked, and so that's how I source my candidates. I try to think beyond the job description and see what other skills they can offer. That's how I source my candidates.
And what makes your agency unique in this industry in terms of this area of recruitment?
Well, because I mentioned early, I am sustainable. I call myself sustainable. So what makes me different is I want to make an impact in society, and especially in small communities that are don't have the same chance, or they have this big gap of unemployment. And what I do is, if you work with me, I will donate on your behalf, with your logo, a workshop to empower women to come back to work, or an education program to talk about gender equality and unconscious bias, or to any purpose that your company has, and that will create a circular economy of service, where I just want to make a difference, you want to make a difference, and we work together. And I think it's a bit of what B-Corp is about. It's not just have make profit, like I mentioned before, but to contribute to some social impact, or to empower someone. And this is how we create sustainability, and that's how we create this culture of awareness and be more. It's not just about become green, but it's about also well-being, because if you are feeling well with yourself, if you're happy and you have all this fulfillment, you want better things for the world. So I think it's all about, this is the I think this is a purpose of become green and sustainable.
Brilliant. So one last question, and then we'll just see if anybody's got anything they want to chip in. What initiatives or causes can your company support? What do you do for the community? What's your outlook going? We've been talking about B-Corp and social values. So what are you actually pushing out into the community with?
Excuse me. My mission is to empower women. So I run workshops where at the minute I'm working with the council in here, and the Wolves, the football, where they are looking to we are looking for a program to empower young people for employability. So there is a big issue here about employability, and it's not because it's not a skill, it's because the information is not being passed completely to them. And I think the young generations, which will have an impact in 10 years time, they've been missed. They don't have positive role models to follow. And I think that I make a difference by going and speak what is your potential and what could you achieve, by just find yourself and find your inner power. And then you start looking, what can I do, and what can I contribute to society. And I also run the workshops for the women who wants to find a job, or are, an employer, and then they want to go outside of the negative cycle of living in benefits, because nobody wants to live on benefits.
I can see the intrinsic value in that. I mean, we know the pandemic's had a huge impact on self-confidence for young people as a general statement.
Yes.
If you explode and focus that on the female gender, and actually, what impact that has in, females joining engineering, manufacturing, and any other employment, I can see that there's a real need for a support process that actually builds up confidence, and anyway, but especially after the pandemic experience. No, that's really interesting, and it's really great to hear that gender equality game being played out in the real world. Does anyone have any brief questions or anything they want to just ask Laura before we move on from that? Because I think that's a really interesting and really important space. Okay. So just one last sort of thing, a typical recruitment process, job intake to candidate placement. How long does that take? How long does it take to get somebody into place?
Well, from day one, I will have a conversation with the company to see and know more about the culture and the values and what they are, what is the purpose. And then I develop a job description. And from that day, when the job description is outside, to present the candidate, it is variable, but it could be between 5 to 10 days.
Okay, so it's not a huge process. Excellent.
No.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's really interesting.
Thank you. And I just want to mention, within my strategy, I'm trying to achieve and contribute with the SDG goals from the United Nations, goal 5, 4, and 8, where it's all about equality, diversity, inclusion, but not only in the job, but also in education. And I think this is the right time for make a difference in terms of give a fair chance to everyone. And hopefully in 2030, when my company is bigger, I would be a B-Corp, hopefully a B-Corp, sorry, hopefully before. But in the meantime, I'm trying to find a certification that is less thorough and more, you know, I can achieve faster. So
Jill mentioned earlier, Go Climate Positive, run by a chap called Ian McCoon, who I suspect might be able to help you with that. And I'm sure Jill in a moment will put a link to Ian in the chat, because that's the kind of thing she does. So that's excellent.
Thank you.
Laura, thanks so much for that. Jill, we're a bit over our normal time, but we're within our safety zone. So let's business kitchen 10-minute challenge. Over to you.